I'm going to talk to you about the 20 best mystery and thriller books of 2024 according to Goodreads. We have, yep, I knew that was going to happen. We have lots of books to talk about, so let's just jump in. I've started We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. I don't know. This is my third book that I've read from him. I've read the first two books in the Thursday Murder Club series. Honestly, I don't plan on continuing it though. It's okay. So I'm a little nervous for this one because from early reviews, I think I've seen people like Thursday Murder Club more. And at the end of part one, I do agree with that. I think that it feels very similar in writing, but I don't care about the characters at all. So our two main characters are Amy and Steve, and Amy works as a private security officer, and she is currently on a job where she is on like a private island watching this writer. And then her father-in-law, Steve, is retired, but he's doing kind of private investigating on the side. But he very much like prefers his home life, his routine, things like that. And then something happens that causes her to recruit him to help her. There's been a series of murders that are connected to this influencer program thing. It's called Maximum Impact, and it's this company that like works with influencers and helps like promote them and get jobs and things like that. So it's very suspicious. That's all that's happened so far in part one, and that's all in the synopsis. I just don't care about anything. I don't care about the characters, and the plot is just like, you know, it's fine. Also, ChatGPT is brought up so many times, and I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need ChatGPT to be mentioned in my books, and it's just like, I don't know, it feels odd. I think that everything is just too long. I don't think we needed this much for what the synopsis said, and I definitely need more character development because I don't think the plot is interesting enough for me personally. It is definitely more of like a mystery versus a thriller, which I knew going in, but that doesn't really change my personal taste. Generally, it's fine, but I am definitely not invested. This is gonna be my last Richard Osman book. I am 255 pages in. I just don't think I really like his writing style. I find that I am very bored. I don't think I like mysteries that are in third person, and his are all like that, I believe. I don't know if this is a series, actually. Obviously, Thursday Murder Club is, and I'm done reading that. I probably will finish this. You know, actually, I don't care at all. I don't care how this ends. I don't care about any of the characters. I don't care about the plot. I just don't care what's going on. So why am I reading it? That's a great question. So I'm done, actually. I was going to sit here and try to talk about this book and say I was going to keep reading it. But why? If I actually don't care about a single thing, I don't know why I would keep reading it. So we're done. That's this. I know that so many people love this, but I think that a kind of more quirky mystery needs to be in first person for me to like it. I love like the Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Sutanto, like that kind of vibe. And that's not that different from something like this. This is kind of also similar to Killers of Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. I don't know if that one was in first person or not, but I liked that one. This one, I don't like it. So I'm not gonna read it anymore. That was not where I expected this clip to go, but that's where it ended. So I am going to move on to something that I actually want to read. I do tend to like more of the thriller side versus mysteries, but there are some that I really, really like that are more standard mysteries. So I think it's just his writing, which I'm so sorry. I know that he has so many like diehard fans, but it's not me. And I was really bored. Didn't like the plot. Didn't like the characters, so that felt really good, actually. I'm excited to read something that I'm very invested in. I have started The Boyfriend. I have read, I guess, 2 by Freda McFadden so far, The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret. Personally, I don't plan on continuing with that series. I think the second one was way too similar to the first and not as good. There obviously is the controversy with her plagiarizing books. I haven't read the books that people are saying her books are super similar to, so I don't know how many similarities, what they are, but I did want to bring that up, that there are some issues that have come up with her. That being said, her books are so popular and are absolutely the most read out of this list. From my experience, her books are very, very easy to read. They're very fast paced. There's always things going on. Very compelling reads, and that is no different for The Boyfriend. I am 34% into the audiobook, so I am in chapter 18, and we are getting two different perspectives. The first one is Sydney. Yes, I remembered a name. And she is trying to find her one true love, and she's doing this by going on dates from kind of like a Tinder kind of app. And at the very beginning, she is on a date and she's meeting this guy for the first time. He shows up, his picture not the same person, and he is like, oh, you're so perfect, we have to be together. And she's like, no, and he tries to force himself on her. And when that happens, this dude from across the street was like, hey, what are you doing? And threatens to call the cops, and she just feels this instant connection to him. But they didn't get each other's names. They don't have any sort of information that would lead to her being able to find him. She also has this thing where she bleeds a lot. I forget what it's called, but like a regular cut will cause her to bleed excessively. So we're following that timeline, and then we are also following this guy, Tom? ? I just read the synopsis, and this is very interesting. So we are following, I'm gonna call him Tom, and he is in high school, and he's completely obsessed with this one girl, but he has these tendencies to picture himself murdering her. He, from the age of 4, says he's going to marry her. He's so obsessed with her, and we are watching the beginning of their relationship and seeing his dark thoughts towards her and other people. The synopsis kind of tells you more than what I have gotten to, so I'm not going to tell you that, but there has been a murder in Sydney's perspective. It happens very close to her, so she ends up on the outskirts of this murder investigation. So far, I'm very into it. I have noticed some issues with the writing. I don't need fancy writing. I don't want fancy writing, but there's some weird repetition within sentences that are really close to each other that I've been picking up on. And the thing is, this plot isn't that interesting, but there's something about it that is very compelling, very readable. And I don't know what it is, but Freida McFadden is just very, very good at keeping your attention and sucking you into a story. Oh, ignore my painting ladder. I still need to do the second coat, and I just don't know when I'm going to do it, so just sitting there. I also have Nuva. She wants to chew on my diamond painting supplies, which is what I've been doing while I have gotten 2/3 into The Boyfriend. I'm 67% in and just got to chapter 43, and I don't know what it is. Like, why is this book so readable? I don't get it. I think that there are a lot of things that are just like odd choices. It is midnight, so at the moment I cannot think of what an example would be, but there have just been a few moments when I'm reading that I'm like, that's weird. Sometimes it's with the character choices, sometimes it's with the writing. Sometimes I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, people wouldn't do that kind of thing, but there's something about it that is just very addictive. I'm really, really enjoying it. I don't think that it's anything exciting or new or unique or anything that would really lead me to have a great time with it, because the plot's not even something that is something that I historically like. Just having a good time with it. That's it. I wish I knew why her books read like this, because the writing isn't like great either, so that's a little bit confusing to me, but I still might finish it tonight. I shouldn't, but that might be what happens. I'm gonna get ready for bed and continue listening to the audiobook, and I kind of can see me accidentally finishing it tonight, but I'll talk to you in the morning, because if I don't finish it tonight, I'm going to finish it pretty early in the morning. I just can't quite put my finger on why her books are so compelling, but I am having a very good time. Hello, I finished The Boyfriend last night. As expected, I did stay up until 1:15, something like that, finishing this book. Okay, I don't think there are anything special about Freida McFadden books, but they're addictive. This plot was, I don't know, it was fine, but I also very much enjoyed it. So I don't get how that works. I 100% understand why she is so popular, and really anything that is getting people to read more or read something they wouldn't usually read, like, I am all for. I definitely recognize issues in her books. There are just things that happen and I'm like, I that was a choice. But then she has really fun plot twists. I thought I had it figured out and I was wrong. But other than the plot twist, there was nothing that exciting about the book. There's just something so compelling and I can't put my finger on it. And how many times am I going to say that? I'm just going to keep saying it until I figure it out. I'm going to give this one 4 stars. I had a very fun time with it. I flew through this book. It's very, very readable and I really enjoyed it despite not thinking the plot is anything like new, which is usually why I end up liking thrillers whenever they're more unique. So I don't know what it is, Frida. But I'm glad I read this. I probably wouldn't have picked it up, honestly, if it wasn't for this. She has so many books that come out and I just never ever prioritize them. But I had a fun time. The Return of Ellie Black by Miko Jean is one of my personal favorites from this list. I read this as part of a Patreon book club. We had a video chat discussion for this, which I really enjoyed. This one is set in this town where a girl, Ellie Black, has returned after being missing for 2 years. Something is off with the situation. She won't say any details about where she was or what had happened to her. So we are learning about everything with Ellie Black, and we are also learning about the disappearance of our other main character, one of the local detectives. Her sister went missing 20 years ago, so she has a lot of feelings surrounding this case and somebody returning. So we're seeing the parallels of what happened 20 years in the past and what has happened with Ellie Black. This had some really great discussions in it. I really like this kind of thriller. I like more psychological thrillers. This is a debut thriller. I believe this author has written YA general fiction before, which I have not read, but I will continue to read from her in the thriller genre. It's definitely a sad one. It's a tougher read, but I would highly recommend it. I give it 4.5 stars. I have started the Heiress. I am 112 pages in. I just got to chapter 7. These are pretty long chapters. I have read 2 books from Rachel Hawkins before. One I gave, I don't know, 4.5, 5 stars. I really, really liked Reckless Girls, even though a lot of people didn't. And then I gave The Villa 3 stars. This is one that I had on my radar, but I obviously wasn't rushing out to go pick up. But so far I'm really liking it. So we are following Camden and his wife, Jules. And Cam was adopted as a kid. He was raised by this very, very rich, like the richest woman in not New York, nope, North Carolina. But he didn't have a great childhood. He has very bad memories of this house, but his mom has passed away and he is the one that inherited everything, which causes some issues with his family because they're all like, well, we should have gotten some of this, being like blood relatives. And he truly wants nothing to do with it. So he currently lives in Colorado with his wife and they are renting an apartment. It's very small. They're not unhappy, but obviously things could be better with money. Jules kind of wants to move to this house. Whenever you technically own a big mansion and you're living in a very small apartment, I'm sure it's difficult to be content with where you are and not want to move to this place. And they are going back to the estate because of his uncle's death, and it brings up all of these things. I'm just having a fun time with it. I really like inheritance books. I think that they're usually fun and filled with family drama, which is entertaining when it's not my own. So far, so good. I'm interested in this take on an inheritance plot. I didn't know that's what she looked like. Anyway, I'm excited to see how this continues going. So far, really enjoying it. This is so random, but for some reason, my shirt smells like pixie sticks, you know? That like pretty much just straight sugar in a stick. So that's confusing. Anyway, I am now 2/3 into the Heiress. I am 195 pages in. I just got to chapter 12. I'm having a really, really good time with this. So we are getting the perspectives of Camden and him reacting to things of his past, but we're mostly kept in the dark with him, I feel. Then we're also getting Jules, her perspective, and I feel like some secrets have been revealed with that. And then I don't think I mentioned it last time, but we're also getting letters written from Camden's mom to him. I'm assuming he has read them at this point, but they are addressed to him, kind of telling him the story of her life. She was a widow 4 times, and we are learning about the circumstances of that, and I'm just really invested in it. There's all this drama, there's these family secrets. I'm enjoying learning about them slowly as we go, and I'm glad that it's done in a way that we are getting information and it's not just somebody saying, oh, I have a secret and you'll find out eventually the whole time, because that's just so annoying. Especially when they're like taunting you with it. I don't know. I like the letter format in it. I think it's an interesting way to get this information. Secrets, family drama, the inheritance, figuring everything out with that. We've also gotten hints that the small town doesn't really like the family that's currently living there and that they want Camden to come back, which is a little odd, but I guess everybody knows everything about the family. So I am about to drive. If it looks like I just woke up, I mean, I didn't, but it hasn't been that long, and I'm just really tired today, but my sister's baby shower is this weekend, so I am leaving to go drive to set up part of that. It's tomorrow. I plan on finishing this in the car on the way there. I think I have just enough time to finish it. I'm really looking forward to it. Sorry if you can hear car noises, but it's freezing. There's snow. And I really don't want to turn off my car. I finished the Heiress on my drive here, and I ended up really loving this. Not that I'm surprised, because I did really, really like, Reckless Girls, but I haven't really heard anybody talking about this. I have been a little bit out of the loop with thrillers this year. I feel like I've kind of taken a much needed break. I think that they were getting a little monotonous and too repetitive, and I just wasn't loving them as much, but I think taking that break has made me really enjoy thrillers more. The few that I've read this year and then getting back into them now, like, I'm just having a really, really good time with it. You know, I think I'm just gonna give it 5 stars. I was constantly engaged. I liked that we were getting the letters and Jules and Cam's perspectives. I loved all the family drama. I thought that everything about it was just so much fun, and I read thrillers for the fun stuff, you know, like, I want the drama, I want the messy stuff. Maybe this was a little predictable, but I also didn't let myself think about it. I really liked how everything came together. There were way more things happening than I thought were happening, so it's always fun to discover those things as we go along. After the end, really like this cover. It has more meaning than I feel like I expected. I'm really, really happy with this. I probably would have picked this up eventually, but it was not any sort of priority for me, and I'm so glad that I ended up picking it up. Fast-paced, drama-filled, and a lot of fun. Middle of the Night by Riley Sager is one that I generally enjoyed, but is definitely not a favorite for me. We are following Ethan, who has returned to his parents' house, and his friend disappeared when he was a child. They were camping in Ethan's backyard, and he wakes up and his friend is not there. There's a rip in the tent, and he has no memory of what happened to his friend. So he has moved away, and he hasn't really processed that. He's also dealing with a lot of stuff with his wife, and he is now back at his parents' house. The cul-de-sac that he grew up in is very in each other's business, and he starts experiencing weird things, and he thinks that his friend might be back as a ghost. I give this one 3 stars. It is one of my least favorite from Riley Sager. I didn't have any real issues with it, but I think it had a lot of really great ideas that weren't explored and didn't live up to the potential that I thought that it had. So generally okay for me, but not a favorite. I decided to start
Society of Lies by Lauren Ling Brown. And I had never heard of this book before the Goodreads Choice Awards were announced. I was told that I was just very out of the loop, which is very valid. I didn't keep up with thrillers this year, but it's also a pretty new one. It came out in October, I believe. Yeah, the beginning of October, so it hadn't been out for very long. Also, it's a Reese's Book Club pick, which I don't keep up with, so I just live under a rock. I'm not really surprised that a book from Reese's Book Club was on here. There's probably others, but like a more recent release makes sense that it's something like that. So in this, we are following two different characters. I'm sorry, I don't know anyone's names. Okay, so we are following Maya and Naomi, and they are sisters, and Maya went to Princeton 10 years ago. It's been a decade since she graduated, and she's looking forward to going back for reunions and everything. She's extra excited because her sister is graduating this year as well. And her husband and her daughter are going, and they are all really excited about everything, so she books a hotel for her and her sister to kind of celebrate the night before. And last minute, her sister cancels. She's very upset because it was a lot of money that they didn't really have, but it was a special occasion and she wanted to put that money towards that. And then she got really angry that her sister didn't show up and they got into this fight. The next day, she gets a call saying that her sister, Naomi, is dead. She was found drowned in a lake nearby, and it is pretty much ruled as an accident or intentional, but on Naomi's part. There's drugs and alcohol in her system, that kind of thing. But Maya starts to think that it could be foul play because she sees this comment on one of the articles saying it's always an accident when it happens to one of us. And with that, she's in a secret society. So we are also following Naomi starting 8 or 9 months before she dies, seeing her getting into the secret society and meeting some people, and obviously leading up to what happened with her death. There is something that happened in Maya's timeline with her and her friends, so we are starting to learn about that as well. It seems like that might either be related to or copying, well, not copying, but like a replication of what happened before. So we are learning about what happens with both sisters while they're at college and watching Maya try to figure out what happened to Naomi in the present. They also have a strained past. There is a 10-year age gap between them, and both of their parents are not in the picture. Maya was 21, I believe, when everything happened with their parents, and Naomi feels like she was abandoned in that situation, so they have the strain of that. And they also just deal with a lot of things because their dad was the only black man in their town and their mom is Asian, so they've dealt with a lot of stuff growing up because of those things as well, which we are learning a little bit about, and that might come into play more later, but at this point it's just been kind of like mentioned, like one-off comments, but that really plays into their relationship as sisters. I'm enjoying this so far. I like college drama kind of things like this. I'm not sucked into the story, but I'm having a really good time with it, which I'm happy about considering I had no idea what this was, anything about it, like no idea it existed. Good morning. I don't know if you can hear Nova purring, but she is right here sitting on the desk in front of me and she's so cute. I got to part 4 of Society of Lies. The end of part 1 is 28% in, I believe. The end of part 2 was only 50% in, so I just waited until now. Excuse you, can I? So I just got to part 4, which is 81% in. Nova, don't rub your face against it. Hey, get down. Everything with race has definitely started to play a part more, which I assumed that it would, especially with the way that things were mentioned in the first part. There's also stuff with class in it. We are obviously following, sorry, there's a cat here right now. A lot of rich people, they are at Princeton, and there are a lot of those there that are there because their family is rich, and then a few that are just like really smart and got in because of that, and they are definitely having to work their way through school. I like the different discussions on it with class and race within a really big Ivy League very exclusive school like Princeton. I think it's interesting to see the struggles of somebody that is trying to desperately support their sister, because even though they have those issues with one feeling abandoned and then the other one doing everything she can to provide for her, but not outwardly saying like, oh, I'm doing this and this and this for you, and that causing strain on their relationship, the dynamics are just very interesting. So my Spotify hours renew soon, so I'm gonna get back to listening to the audiobook. Oh, my one complaint is there's too many characters and I don't feel like the two timelines are as distinct as I want them to be. It takes me a second to be like, okay, this is what we're doing now, but I am still liking it, and it's not like a big issue that I'm having. It's just, I don't know why it's not bothering me that much, but that's just another thing to point out. I finished Society of Lies, and I think I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Overall, I liked what it was doing, but I think that the execution wasn't my favorite. So my main issue is that in the 2 different timelines, things were too similar. They were both set at the same place. They're both set in Princeton, and they're following these sisters. You don't have similarities just because you're sisters, but I feel like the way they were written, I feel like it wasn't super easy to distinguish between the two. They were like doing different things, but as characters themselves, I didn't really feel like they were each distinct people. And I think because they were both dealing with this secret society and some of the same characters within that, I just feel like I needed more variety to be more interested in this. I think that it was a decent book. I'm not sure actually if this is a debut. Okay, it looks like it is. That makes sense to me. I feel like I would read from this author in the future, because I didn't hate this. I didn't dislike it. I think that it could have just been improved upon to be a better story. I will say I think this was very forgettable. I'm already struggling to remember specific details of certain things because things were never super clear and specific with the characters and which timeline they were in, I think. This one was a Reese's Book Club pick. I had not heard of it because I don't keep up with Reese's Book Club. I'm glad that I read it though, because I probably would not have otherwise, and it's an author that I am going to keep my eye on for the future. I do like dark academia stuff, and I feel like having these like secret societies at a very elite, like privileged place to be is interesting to read. I wish I liked it more. I wish I connected to it more, but I'm not mad about it. And I think the way that everything wrapped up was decent. The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. In this, we are watching the opening night of a new resort. It's a very luxurious, expensive resort, and only certain people are included in that. So we are seeing people who are there for opening night, and we are also learning more about this town that the manor is set in. The people in the town don't like that this is here. They feel like it is intruding on their privacy. They are not happy about it, and they are also trying to protect some secrets that are in the woods surrounding the manor. And there is a fire that happens on opening weekend, and somebody is found dead, and the police are called to investigate. So we are learning about what caused this fire to start, the secrets in the town, and how everything is related. I generally really enjoyed this one. I think that it was kind of weird. I don't like every single choice that was made. I wish that something that is revealed at the end was integrated into the story a little bit better, but I still did have a fun time with this one, and I gave it 4 stars. I am joined by Squeakers, who is not my cat, but she is hanging out with me at the moment. I have 2 books to talk to you about. Also, I can barely keep my eyes open, so do not judge. Hello. My eye bag situation. Hi. So, I have 2 books to talk to you about. I am currently at my parents' house, and excuse me. And I listened to the audiobook of one on the way here partially, and I'm gonna DNF it. Ma'am. So I got 25% into The Teacher by Frida McFadden, and I did not like this. am not continuing it. I did look up spoilers because I know that Frida McFadden always has these big twists and stuff, and I was like,
I want to know what it is, but absolutely not enough to read it. And wow, nope. I'm really... I'm so glad I didn't finish that book. I know, it was not good. I think this cat is currently making biscuits with all four paws. So that's very confusing. I'm sorry, I am so distracted. Okay, the teacher, I didn't like any of the plot, and I know you're not supposed to like it. It's not supposed to be like a good time. There's stuff with teachers and students and whatever, but like it just was dumb. Our main character, Eve, was a teacher. Her husband was a teacher, and then we're also following this high school girl who loves poetry, and the two teachers, Eve and Nate, I think. They're married, but they don't have a good relationship. And there was this teacher that was kicked out recently, and we don't really know the specifics of it, but it seems like it has something to do with the high school student that we are following. And then our main character is obsessed with shoes, and I'm like, can you shut up about these shoes? I don't understand. You're like, oh, I love to spend... No! I love to spend money on expensive shoes. It makes me feel alive. And I'm like, girl... Like, I think you need some hobbies. Not that you can't be into shoes, but that was the only personality trait she had. So I didn't really love that. And then everything was stupid, and I just didn't care about anything. It all felt so silly and dumb. And it was supposed to be this, like, dark, messed up thing. And I'm like, okay, I just can't do this anymore because, like, I don't know, I didn't enjoy it. So sorry, I'm like leaning in really close. I'm trying to not let squeakers knock my camera over. So yeah, I got 25% in, and I decided I could not do it anymore. The characters were all dumb. Every part of the plot felt really stupid. And after reading the reviews, like, I'm not mad about the fact that I did not read the whole thing. So, The Teacher is a DNF for me, and I am now reading, I almost said Sally Hepworth, I need to go to bed. Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. I am 17 chapters in, so I'm on page 125, and in this one we are following 3 foster sisters, pretty much. They all, as children, ended up with this lady, Miss Fairchild, who got them for various reasons, and now in the present day they are all dealing with something. Please hold, squeakers wants out. Okay, so they are all dealing with different things in their lives when they are children and end up in this lady's care. One of them is a very troubled child who is in the foster care system. Another one is someone who has just lost her parents, and the other one was someone that was under the care of their grandmother, and then she went to the hospital. From the outside, it looked like it was a great situation, but inside the house, they did not have a great time. And then in the present, they are all contacted by the police because remains have been found at the house they grew up in, and they get kind of called into this. Right now, it's not clear if they're going to be witnesses of something specific or suspects or whatever, but clearly there's things that they are hiding. So far I'm enjoying it. I don't have any strong feelings about it. I know this one is so popular. It didn't end up in the top 10, but it has a decently high rating, and a lot of people that I know that have read this have loved it. So I'm interested to see what this does as a thriller, because I think it's supposed to have a pretty good plot twist. I think I've read one book from Sally Hepworth, DNF'd one book from Sally Hepworth before, but I'm not positive if that was this author. But I'm having a decent time. I'm home and I am 238 pages into Darling Girls. I listened to some more of it on my way home, and it was snowing, and it was awful because my eyes had to just like ignore the snow that was coming at me, but it was very distracting, and I was like fighting because my eyes just wanted to close because it was a lot. So anyway, I was listening to this audiobook, and I don't know. I think that this just feels less thrillery than I was expecting. I feel like we haven't gotten any big reveals that feel like a thriller reveal. Everything just feels so family drama, and I don't know how to explain it because it just feels like the reveals are just information. It doesn't feel like
it's really changing the story in any sort of way. There have been some things that it's like, oh, and here's this thing that was connected in a way you didn't realize, or different things like that. But I don't know what it is. It's not that it's not working for me, but I thought I was going to be kind of obsessed with this because so many people have given this high ratings that I interact with, and I just don't get it. I feel like what I'm saying sounds like I'm not liking it, and I'm just confused how a lot of people give this 5 stars, because it feels like a very specific kind of thriller for people to like. It doesn't feel as like a broadly not accepted one, but kinda. I just think it's a lot slower than I was expecting. We haven't had any fun twists. I don't know, it's just been kind of slow. People are protecting themselves, so they are hiding some information, but nothing has really felt like I feel when I read thrillers. I truly don't know how to explain it. I'm enjoying it. I think that learning about everything is interesting enough, like it's keeping my attention, but I'm just also confused because I thought this was going to be kind of different and more exciting. I finished Darling Girls, and I don't really get the hype of this book. This one didn't make the top 10, so it's not like everybody was going out and voting for this one, saying it was their favorite, but I feel like everything was very obvious to me, which isn't always a problem, but when I don't think that things are interesting enough outside of the reveals, then I don't know. This just didn't feel a lot like a thriller to me. Also, I don't think I've read from this author before. I was thinking of something else. Nothing in here really surprised me at all. And then there's this one reveal and I was like, you are who? Because I feel like there were a lot of side characters introduced in different aspects that I was just like, I don't know anybody's name. And it just... Why are you hitting me, Bowsy? Well, actually, I know why you want to. I can't say it. Bowser is hanging out with me. Yeah. So, I don't know. I thought it was okay. Definitely not my favorite thriller. I just thought it was kind of boring. And a little bit basic. I just didn't really care about any of the characters. And I think if you did, then you would like this, because I feel like that's the most important thing in this story. But it just was a book that I read. It happened. I wish I had more profound thoughts. I wish I had better things to say, but it just isn't my kind of thriller, I guess. I also don't like when certain reveals happen quite so late in the book as it did in here for one of the things. It was okay. It was fine, but I'm a little sad that I didn't love it. Bowser don't like the book. I'm a little sad I didn't love it as much as other people. The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. This is the sequel to The Maid, also by Nita Prose, obviously. I believe that the first in this series won the Goodreads Choice Awards the year that it was published. I generally did enjoy the first one. I was not planning on picking this one up without this video, but I didn't really want to vlog a direct sequel, so I preemptively read this thinking that it was going to be a nominee, and it ended up being that. I will say this is a separate story. The first one wraps up and this is a new mystery, but all of the characters are the same and they reference things from the previous one. So you could read it separately, but you're missing out on like a little bit, and then I don't know if it would make sense to go back and read the first one. I personally don't love this series and I do not plan on continuing it. I think it's okay. I think it's decent for what it is, but I think there's not much else that can be done with this series. I think it's too repetitive. I think this one was too similar to the first book. That being said, the characters are fine. Everything is fine enough. It was an easy read. We are following Molly, and she is a maid at this very fancy hotel, and they are hosting an author event. This guy doesn't really do events anymore, so it's a big deal, and he is about to announce the next thing that he's working on, and he croaks. So it's suspicious that he died and there was already a murder at this hotel. So people are thinking it has to be somebody working with the hotel, and Molly is under some suspicion again. So she takes it upon herself to solve this case. I'm not sure if these sleuth kind of books are specifically for me, but I did enjoy it generally and I gave it 3 stars. So House of Glass, I have read a couple from this author before. I read her release from last year, Gone Tonight, and then I read 3 or 4, however many books she did with Greer Hendricks. I've read all of those and I have had a mixed opinion of them. I think I've given some 2 stars and some 5 stars. So a range from Sarah Pekkanen. This one so far I am liking. We are following Stella, and Stella is a best interest attorney. So for her job, she is assigned to this case of this girl Rose, who was outside with her grandmother, and the nanny fell out of the window and died in front of them. And then her mother and father are both partially accused, but like also not, and they're getting divorced, and both of them want full custody. So Stella is going in and it's her job to decide which parent should get full custody. She doesn't have the final say, but her word in this is pretty much the law with where Rose ends up going. She has served for multiple high conflict custody cases, and she generally doesn't accept children under the age of 13 because she had a situation happen in her childhood that led to her not speaking for a while due to this trauma. So Rose is not a case that she would typically take on, but her mentor pretty much begged her to. So we are watching her going into this house and learning about Rose and getting to know everybody to try to figure out where she best belongs after the divorce. They have a lot of money, they own this company, and the parents aren't even fighting for that. They are both leaving with what they came in with and they're content with that. So they're really just fighting over her. And then there's this weird thing with everything in the house that is typically glass being replaced with plastic kind of things. So we don't really know what's going on with that. It's something to do with the mom. And Stella is trying to figure out what happened to the nanny that fell. Is it the mom, the dad, the grandma, the boyfriend? Because she doesn't want Rose to end up with somebody that could potentially harm her. So far, I'm enjoying it. I feel like it's not as gripping as I want it to be, but also I'm still interested. I like the setup. I think that following I forget what it's called, best interest attorney is a very interesting concept. I have not, to my knowledge, followed a main character with that job before. It is a little bit domestic, but that's okay. I'm overall enjoying it. I'm 245 pages into House of Glass, and my one complaint is, why is this book so long? I don't think that anything that has happened has been that important. No, okay, not that it's not important, but I feel like nothing is that exciting, and I feel like there's been a lot of repetition, and I understand it to a certain extent because we are watching our main character piece these things together to figure out exactly what is happening. But at the same time, it just feels like it's really drawn out. I don't think that it needs to be quite this long. I'm not feeling any emotions towards anything. I don't think that the characters are really done in a way that's making me feel invested in the story, because this really is a character-focused story. And I'm not disliking the characters, but, well, I mean, you're supposed to dislike them to a certain extent, but, like, I don't have any real issues with them. I'm not like, wow, I wish this was done differently. But at the same time, I just don't feel sucked into the story, and I think it's because of the characters, because the plot itself is not very fast-paced. It's not very twisty. I feel like everything at this point seems very obvious what's going on, and I feel like there will be a twist at some point, but I'm not sure if anything is going to be that shocking, because I feel like at this point it feels like a book that is like slow reveals as we go, so we figure everything out, and not that there's going to be a massive shift in our perspective, which I could be wrong about, because I do think that her books usually have this reveal in them. But right now, this feels just like a very standard, this is what's happening, and then we find out more information, so then we feel like this is what's going on. I am liking it, but kind of like 3.5 star range at this point. It's one that I'm enjoying reading, but I'm not obsessed with it. I've definitely liked books from this author more, and also less, so I'm not mad.
I finished House of Glass. I think I'm gonna give this one 3 stars. There were certain aspects that I really enjoyed. I think that her writing is very compelling because this story is kind of boring and I didn't hate it. I think that this was absolutely too long. I don't think that anything that was going on needed to be drawn out this much. It was like 340 pages, but the audiobook was a little long for a book of this length, which also obviously is determined by the narrator and things like that. But there wasn't enough exciting things happening to warrant a book this long. I think it would have been better as a shorter book, or we needed more things added. I think that the way it wrapped up was decent. I liked the commentary in this book on the way that trauma can impact you as a kid. Like if something happens, it can impact you throughout your whole life, because our main character dealt with something in her past, and then also this child that we are watching her try to protect. I also think that there was some stuff in here with our main character's past that felt a little unnecessary. I understand what it was doing with the commentary on everything, but I just never felt invested in any of that stuff. It just felt like it was thrown in to make it more interesting, but I don't think I really cared about that stuff as much. I don't know. The way I'm talking about this, like, it sounds terrible, but I thought that there were good discussions in here. I like her writing. I just wish that the plot was more exciting. I really enjoyed her previous book, Gone Tonight, or something like that, and I've enjoyed some of her stuff with Greer Hendricks, so I would continue to read more. I liked the direction and the ideas of this, but the execution, I guess, wasn't quite my favorite, even though I think it was still decent. Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose was a book that I was anticipating to give 5 stars. I'm obsessed with this cover. I think it's such a cool concept. I love that it really looks like the VHS, and the premise is really fun. These 3 siblings come together. They were estranged, but their mom has just died. We are getting the perspective of all 3, but it does feel like one of them is more of the main character, and she was with her mom. She was taking care of her mom when she died, and then the other 2 siblings come. They all have their issues, and they are trying to figure out what happened with their dad who went missing in the past. And while they are going through their mom's belongings, they find an old VHS tape and they put it in, and on it is a very suspicious looking tape where somebody is murdered and it looks like her parents covered it up. So they are trying to figure out what happened with that, figure out the secrets of the past, what happened to their father. I think this had a lot of really, really interesting ideas, but I never felt connected to the characters. I feel like the way that they interacted with everybody just didn't really make sense to me, and I never felt invested. I think the concept of this one is absolutely incredible. The execution fell a little flat for me, but I did overall enjoy it. I also read this as a book club pick for my Patreon, and we did a video call to discuss this one, which was a really great discussion and I really enjoyed it. There were a range of 3 to 5 stars. This one I've seen so many people love, so I truly thought it was going to be 5 stars, so I was a little disappointed, but I ended up giving it 3 stars and I did enjoy it. I'm 120 pages into How to Solve Your Murder by Kristen Perrin, and this is more of a standard mystery than things that I usually read, but so far I'm really enjoying it. There are a few like more classic mystery writers that I do tend to enjoy. Ruth Ware, One by One, that was the standard mystery. It was a bit predictable, but like I still had a fun time with it because I think it was done well. So even though I do prefer thrillers, I do still tend to like some mysteries, and this is one of them so far. So we are following 2 timelines. They're both following the same family, and in 1965, Frances was at a county fair with 2 of her friends, and they go and see this fortune teller, and the fortune teller tells her that she is going to be murdered. So she spends her entire life trying to prevent this, trying to look into people that could be out to get her. So she lives this life of paranoia and feeling like everybody is deceiving her. But the problem with that is that nobody believes that it's actually going to happen until it actually does happen. And then in the present, we are following Annie, and she has been summoned to Frances's estate. And she was summoned before Frances was murdered, but by the time she gets there, she's already gone. And Annie decides that she is going to be the one to catch the killer. And as of this point, that's really all that has happened. I think that it's been an entertaining time so far. There's people that are trying to like get their part of the inheritance and figure out what happened with the will, and obviously we're trying to figure out who murdered Frances. At this point, I don't have any like real feelings about any of it other than I am entertained. But I think it's going to be fun watching her investigate and get to see her interacting with all of these characters more, because she is part of this family, but she's kind of an outsider. Her family doesn't really interact with everybody to this like crazy extent. It was mostly her mom that dealt with everything, but then she was the one that was summoned. So far so good. I hope I get a little bit more invested in it soon, but I definitely can see that happening. I have finished How to Solve Your Own Murder. Yes. I was going to update you when I was 2/3 in, and then I was like, do I have anything to say, or am I just updating to update? And I didn't have anything to say, so I was like, man, nobody cares. Like, I don't need to just say, this is fine, I have nothing to say. No point in that. I could just do that here. I am going to give this one 3 stars. I think for a mystery, it was pretty decent. I have found that there are some more standard mysteries that I do really, really love. This one I think was just okay, which for my personal preference, that's what it was, but I don't think there were any issues with it. The thing is, well, 2 things, I guess. The first one that is a lot shorter. My childhood, I came home from school every single day in 5th grade, 4th grade. I think it was 4th grade. And I came home and I read one of these a day. Nancy Drew. I love this series. Well, as an adult, I have no idea. Actually, no, I think I reread the first 2 a couple years ago, and I thought it was decent for what it was. But I feel like this really started my obsession with mystery plotlines in books, and I just like tore through these as a kid. I would come home from school and I would just lay in bed and read an entire book until dinner time and then do everything else I needed to afterwards. So like I have mystery roots. I own this entire series. All 64 are on my shelves over there. You just can't really see them in videos ever because the yellow is kind of obnoxious. But I have a soft spot for mysteries and stuff, so it's not like I'm trying to be a general mystery hater ever. I appreciate the genre for what it is, but while reading this, I think I figured out some things. I think, and obviously this is like generalizations and is not specific to every single book that fits more mystery and every single book that fits more thriller. I'm acting like this is some revelation, but the thing that I like more about thrillers is that I feel like it's more drama focused, and the drama is what drives the mystery versus in mysteries where they are intentionally trying to solve this murder. And in thrillers, sometimes they are intentionally trying to solve the murder, but it doesn't feel like investigative detective kind of stuff, and I prefer that to a normal person that is trying to do detective work. I think having Frances set up this thing where to get her inheritance you had to solve her murder, well, she had a couple people that could do it. I think that was a really fun addition to this, and it gave somebody a reason to be acting like this, because to me it feels a little silly sometimes when someone just decides that they have all these investigative skills and that they are going to be able to solve the murder faster than anybody else. Sometimes I do like that, but I think that I prefer it when it's like different things are happening that cause information to be found out, and learning the story in that way when it's like drama filled and there feels like there's more plot outside of literally just solving the mystery. And in this, it's just solving this piece of evidence. Where does that lead me to this next clue? That kind of thing. So I'm just telling you that the definition of the mystery versus a thriller is why I like thrillers more than mysteries. I'm doing so great here, but I've just been trying to figure out what specifically has led me to like thrillers a lot more than mysteries recently, even though thrillers have a lot of mystery elements in them. Anyway, I didn't think that the characters in this were interesting enough to keep me invested in this plot that is very standard detective kind of work. There was nothing wrong with the character, but I just had no sort of connection, no feelings for her or anybody else. And I think it was a fun concept, but just for me, it was a 3-star read, but I would still recommend it. There is just something about me that has to dislike all the popular books recently. This one, everybody loves, but why am I bored out of my mind? Oh my goodness. Okay, I would like to start this by saying I read Long Bright River, which is this author's previous book, and I think at the time I gave it 3 stars because I wasn't really using 2 stars, but I was so bored in that book that I think of it as a 2-star book. I didn't have any issues with it other than I think it was incredibly too long, and I didn't care about anything that was happening. And guess what? My thoughts are the same for this one. In theory, this is interesting, but the execution for me is not my favorite. And I don't think it's a fault of the book. It's just me not lining up with this book with my personal taste. Part of my issue with this is that it feels so historical as well. We are in 1975, and we know that Barbara, who is one of the counselors, has gone missing, and that's all that happened in the first 20%. She is the daughter of the people that own this camp, though. So it's taken very seriously. People are immediately trying to find her. And then 14 years prior, Barbara's brother also went missing. So what's going on with this family that their children are going missing? We get both timelines, and oh my god, it did not work for me. I found that they were too similar for me as well. I didn't feel like I had a real grasp on who the characters were. Everything kind of felt the same to me. I can appreciate this story for what it is, but I just don't want to continue reading it. I'm not having a good time with it. I don't want to pick it back up whenever I put it down. It's so long, and I feel like it doesn't need to be this long, but also I'm in the minority completely with this. So if you are interested in this book, I would say pick it up. But if you're looking for something super fast-paced where the story itself, like the plot, is moving quickly and gripping in that way, I would not recommend this. I personally will not be reading from this author again. She just doesn't write the books for me, and that is totally fine, but I don't think there's anything actually wrong with them. So, a DNF for The God of the Woods. I'm kind of not surprised after hearing some people talk to me about this book, but also I desperately wanted to get it. I wanted to be in the hype. Everybody loves this, and I wanted to be part of that. I like to be part of the hype, loving the popular things, but sadly that is not always the case for me. Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera is my personal favorite from this list. We are following a woman who goes back to her hometown after she left because she was accused of murdering her best friend after a wedding. The thing is, she did look very suspicious. She was the last person to be seen with her. She had blood all over her, but she doesn't have any memories of this, and she was acquitted, but the town still thinks that that is not correct, and they feel that she should be behind bars. So she goes back for her grandmother's birthday, and there's somebody there who is investigating this case with his podcast, and she decides she just wants to know what happened. She wants to clear her name, so she agrees to it, even if it might mean that she did murder her, because she has these intrusive thoughts that make her question herself. This one, I don't think the plot was anything groundbreaking, anything truly incredible, but I had such a fun time with it. It was a very compelling read. It was really easy to read, and it was very entertaining for me. I really enjoyed it. This is a thriller debut, so I will read from this author again. I gave this one 5 stars. Hello, it's me, Hater Lexi, here to DNF another book. I can never do this again. I can't do this. I actually don't think I can do this anymore. Okay, another very, very popular book. Everybody loves it except for me. I made it 6% into All the Colors of the Dark, and I am DNFing it. I started this book 2 times, and the first time I was like, maybe I would just, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I don't know what's going on because nothing is keeping my attention. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start over. The same thing. Nothing was keeping my attention. I read the beginning 2 times and actually don't remember anything. And I can't tell you a single thing that happened. Something about
somebody named Patch, and did somebody go missing? I think someone went missing. Oh yeah, so Patch like defended somebody and then she was taken or something. These slow, historical, dual timeline mysteries are not for me. Actually, I don't remember if this one was dual timeline. I think it was. This one is also set in 1975, which I believe The God of the Woods was as well. The daughter of a wealthy family is targeted, and the most unlikely hero emerges, Patch, a local boy with one eye who saves the girl and in doing so leaves heartache in his wake. A missing person mystery, serial killer thriller, a love story, a unique twist on each. Nope. Well, at least I remembered Patch, but I'm so sorry. I'm not here to hate on books. I do like books. I do. I promise you. But I didn't like the writing. I couldn't connect to it in any way. Like, I was not invested at one single moment. And I wasn't going to force myself to read it just because I was not having a good time. And I know nobody's telling me that I have to read these books, and you're like, shut up, just move on. So I will do that. But I'm really sorry to anybody that loves these books that I'm hating on. From what I gathered, not a book problem. A me with the book problem. Let's move on. First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston is so popular. Everybody loves this one except for me. Oh, I have so many unpopular opinions on thrillers apparently. This is very, very widely read, especially because it was a book of the month book and Reese's book club pick. I felt lied to. I felt cheated. I felt deceived. I don't like what ended up happening in this book. I think at the beginning I was generally enjoying it, but I thought that it was going to go in one direction and it went in a completely separate direction. And then there's this extreme like villain monologue at the end. I want to see things happen. I want to slowly learn about things happen. I don't want to get to the end and be like, okay, well, this happened because of this and this happened because of this and I did this because of this. And most of it we did watch, or it was implied, and like, I'm not dumb. I don't need you to do that. It made me angry. I read this one a long time ago, so I don't remember the specifics, and also I didn't like it, so it left my brain. But we're following somebody who is kind of going undercover and she is investigating things. The synopsis says, Evie Porter has everything a nice southern girl could want: a doting boyfriend, a house with a white picket fence, a tight group of friends. The only catch, Evie Porter doesn't exist. So Mr. Smith gives her this identity and then she is investigating Ryan Summer. She doesn't know who the person giving her this information and these instructions is. The way that this went wasn't my favorite. I just didn't like it. And it was also pretty boring to me. I read this for a book club pick and it was a fun discussion, but this one really did not work for me. And I'm really upset about it because everybody else loves it, so why couldn't I? I gave this one 2 stars. I'm 106 pages into The Night We Lost Him by Laura Dave. I have read her previous book, The Last Thing He Told Me, and truly I gave it 2 stars and thought it was very boring. So this one I was very apprehensive about because I don't really prefer to read boring books, you know? And I'm pleasantly surprised with how this is going. So in the very, very first chapter, I guess maybe it's a little prologue, we are watching this guy who is reflecting a little bit on things and he is kind of on this cliff and then he gets pushed off. We don't know much about him other than his name and like the little things he's thinking about. I mean, we get some backstory, but not a lot. It's only 4 pages. And then we get into part 1, which is following the children of him. So our main character is Nora, and she has a very interesting relationship with her dad because he left her and her mom kind of when she was fairly young, has multiple wives past her mom. But the thing is, he's always been involved. He never left her. She wasn't abandoned by him in like a true sense of that. He was still very involved in her life, but he kept all of his family's
and different people he interacted with very separate. So now that he has died, one of her half-brothers has gotten into contact with her and says, I think there's something suspicious about this. It was ruled an accident, and the brother Sam has other ideas. He thinks that maybe this was more intentional. It seems very out of character for their father, who had spent years and years and years at his favorite place and just would accidentally step off a cliff. Also, we don't know for sure that he didn't fall, but we know that somebody was with him. That's the end of the prologue. The synopsis doesn't say that he's pushed, but it's 4 pages in, so we know that that is happening and that they are investigating something for real, and it's not just this hope that it was a murder, I guess. As of this point, I think it is interesting enough. I read her first book so long ago that I really cannot remember the specifics of why I found it very boring. This one I do find more engaging. I think just the mystery is a little bit more things that I usually read, stuff like that. There's definitely a lot of family dynamics in here. It's very interesting to have this setup where these people all know each other, but they don't know each other because of the way that the father, Liam, interacted with everybody throughout his life. So I'm excited with how this is going. It doesn't feel like anything that I'm going to be obsessed with, but I would not have picked this up without this video, and at this point, I'm glad that I did. Okay, this is going to be a super quick update for the night we lost him. I am now 206 pages in, and really nothing has happened. Like, the plot has barely moved forward. They're just going around talking to people, asking questions, and thinking about things. But at the same time, like, I'm not bored. Truly nothing exciting is happening, but seeing the pieces fit together is interesting enough for me to keep me wanting to read the story. It's going to be super quick to finish this, so I should be able to finish it soon before I have a content planning live show and then finishing season 2 of Squid Game with my Patreon. But I just wanted to say, nothing has happened, but I am enjoying it. I finished The Night We Lost Him, and I ended up generally enjoying this. There was something that I predicted was happening, and I was incorrect. This is just not my favorite kind of story. Nova. I generally do like more fast-paced books, and I feel like not much happened in this. It was a lot of talking, which obviously happens in every book, but I would just categorize this more as like a family drama. Everything was just finding out these secrets within this family, which is totally fine. It definitely read like a thriller in some aspects, but the main focus was just figuring out the secrets of this family, putting together all of the parts for this guy who had died. The mystery definitely felt more focused on what the dad was keeping secrets of and not who killed him. That is figured out. That is the thing that I guess drives everything, at least initially. But they truly just want answers about their dad. They want to know more about his life, and the murder takes the back seat. I liked some of the things this book talked about. I can't tell you what those are because it kind of spoils some of the things, but it definitely is talking about keeping secrets, choosing what to reveal and what to not reveal about your life to your family, to your loved ones, the hurt that it can cause people if you are trying to keep different family members separate, if you have different families. I always wanted to know what was going to happen. I think I'm going to give it 3 or 3.5 stars. I haven't completely decided yet, but I did enjoy my time with it. I enjoyed what it was doing. This just isn't going to be my favorite kind of story ever, but I still had a good time with it. I am now 96 pages into the last one, At the Wedding, and I am such a hater in this video, but I'm gonna DNF this. Oh my god. Oh my god. Why is this happening to me personally? I feel like I'm learning things about myself while reading all of these books. This is one that is a thriller and not really a mystery, but nothing has happened so far, and I'm sick of this main character. He just says things and I'm like, why are you like this? And not in a fun way, not in an entertaining way, in a way where I'm like, that's really the choice that you made? Like, I just don't love it. There's just been comments about just like various random things that just weren't what I want to be reading. I don't have to like a character, but I have to find them engaging, entertaining, something. Like, I'm not out here trying to feel like super connected to every character and feel like I've had the experiences they've had and stuff, but I have to be having a good time still, and that is not what's happening. So I am going to DNF this. I was honestly very apprehensive going into this one because everyone that I've talked to has not liked it. They've said it's so boring and didn't recommend it. I almost debated not even trying it, but I figured might as well. We're here, and I already had access to the audiobook, so I gave it a shot. I gave it 100 pages, which is about, I think it was 27% into the audiobook. I don't want to be doing this. So that is my 5th DNF. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going crazy in this video because I'm just not loving anything. Well, I did a while ago, but I don't know. I think that it has told me, which I was kind of already doing anyway, but I need to be more picky about the mystery and thriller books that I'm picking up. I mean, I did take a break from reading thrillers for a really long time, so I wanted to see what's popular, what people are liking, and based on the winners, the readership, like, I frequently have an unpopular opinion. Not always. I don't think this one made it very far, like, voting wise. And I don't really know if I've heard of anybody saying they loved this book, but like, oh my god. So, the point of reading is to have fun, so I just am not going to push myself through it for multiple reasons, and I'm just, nope. I've started Not What She Seems. First question, why is this book so long? I'm 130 pages in, which is about a third, and I don't have issues with the book other than, like, I feel like it's unnecessarily long. So we are following our main character, Jack, and she now lives in Washington, D.C., and her family lives in South Carolina, I believe, and she is going back to her hometown because her grandfather is sick. Her mom calls her and requests for her to come back for the first time in 7 years. I don't know where I got that number from, but she left because her father died and everybody in the town thinks that she had something to do with it. We have the information that maybe she did, and she left because she couldn't handle everybody's reaction to her, how everybody was treating her. But she was really close with her grandfather. She was also really close with her sister, and she has a complicated relationship with her mom, but it's still pretty decent. So she goes back and she starts reconnecting with her family. She starts reconnecting with some of her friends from high school that she was really close with. She pretty much abandoned everybody and the idea of this town when she left, but she did keep in contact with her grandfather specifically. They were pretty close, and he was this self-proclaimed armchair detective. It was his hobby. He would look online, try to solve cold cases. He was a detective when he was working, and when he was retired, he wanted to continue trying to help people. So they had this connection over that. She gets a call from her mom saying that her grandfather is in the hospital and she needs to come and see him. So she does that. So in the prologue, we are actually seeing her grandfather at his remote cabin and seeing this, like, situation that he's in. My thing is, I don't think I like when books do this, because there's another book that I just read that also did this. I can't remember what book it was at this point. Oh, The Night We Lost Him. That did that as well, and I feel like it takes some of the suspense away because we know more details, and I don't know if I want to know the details. I guess I prefer that to the character knowing things and be like, I have a secret that I'm not gonna reveal to you, even though you're in their head and it doesn't make sense for them to never think about it. So I guess it's better than that, but it just, I feel like, takes away a little bit of the suspense. So she is now back in her hometown and things are very different from when she left, and there's this weird lady that seems to be kind of controlling things that are happening in this town. They had this house that was called Murder Manor that there was obviously a rough history at, and this lady's coming in and redoing it, and she's bringing
tourism to the town and things like this, and everybody seems to like her except for Jack. So she starts to question herself because of that, but every interaction with this lady has been off. So at this point, we are just watching her realize that maybe something is off with her grandfather and what happened to him, discovering things that are happening in this town and reconnecting with her family some. I think it's a generally interesting story because she also kind of fled DC when she was going back with her grandfather. She was trying to get this writing fellowship and she didn't get it, and she had this relationship with somebody that was on the board, and she ended the relationship, and then he pretty much like blocks her from getting this. And then she finds out that he was taking advantage of her and taking information that she had shared with him privately to kind of gain career prospects and financial stability. So there's a lot going on, but it also feels pretty slow. Getting through these 130 pages has been a lot. I think there's been some good discussions on it with how small towns in the South treat people of color, but I wish it was a little faster paced or less pages to get to where we are. I'm curious how all these things are connected. There's lots of moving parts to it, but for having no idea this book existed, I'm having a good time. I would like to know what I personally did to deserve this. I am 242 pages into Not What She Seems. I'm gonna lose my mind. Why is this book so long and nothing, oh my god, nothing is going on, nothing is happening. I actually am so confused about the pacing of this book. For some reason, the audiobook is almost 16 hours long. It's almost 400 pages. Where I am right now, another thing was just introduced. I feel like I've been reading this book for 12 years. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but I started this yesterday, so I should not feel like I've been reading this for forever, but it's dragging on. Nothing is happening. The main character is so stupid. Like, if you are witnessing something, maybe record it if nobody's believing you. And just like everything is just So we learned more about Jack and her past with her mom, and things definitely were not what they seemed with that. And then she is facing this discrimination in this town for a multitude of reasons, for people's assumptions, for her involvement with her dad dying and being a black woman in this small town. But wow, is she dumb? I just don't understand what she's doing. The choices are not making sense to me. The only thing I'm liking in this book at this point is the commentary on race and some discussion on class as well, because this lady that came in and kind of took over the town clearly has a lot of money and is able to control people because of that. Like, being a rich white lady is working in her favor. The pacing I do not think is really great. There's a storyline with her grandfather which kind of feels like it's on the back burner. There's also this storyline with the guy that she was dating with the manuscript that she stole, which doesn't feel that important until way later in the book than I feel it should. I don't think that the two stories and all the things that the author was trying to do in the book are merged together very well, which is why it's too long, because it feels like it's a bunch of separate things instead of everything kind of blending together into one cohesive story, which really makes the story drag because we're getting two different things in one. And I don't think at this point that we need both of them. I think the story would have been just as fine if she didn't have this evil ex coming after her. Or that could have been a story on its own, because I think it's interesting enough, but the execution makes both of the stories not work. And I'm bored, and I think the character is just making decisions that it doesn't make any sense. Especially with the character's background and how smart she is and all this stuff. Like, I just don't get it. And I understand that part of it is supposed to make her feel like she is paranoid and that she can't really trust herself. And maybe she can't, but I feel like that's not generally the case in
books. Like there's something that is making the characters feel like that something is setting them up. But I don't know. There feels like a lot of caricatures in this book, and I understand that to a certain extent, but I feel like it just isn't working with everything else that's going on. I'm not invested in a single thing. I feel like this book has been going on forever. I am going to finish it because I don't need to DNF 6 books, 5 is enough, but at this point I think it's going to be 2 stars because I'm truly bored out of my mind, and it's frustrating because there are elements that are really good, but just the way everything is done is not working for me. I'm really sad. Winston is here as emotional support because I have finished Not What She Seems. And oh my god, I'm gonna have to give this book 2 stars. I will say that there was one interesting thing that I didn't expect. Other than that, I feel like I'm actually gonna censor myself now that he has moved. I think that everything was very predictable. Nova is rubbing her face up against my tripod, so if you're moving, that's why. So many cat distractions. Nova girl. So I feel like everything was really predictable, which isn't always a bad thing in a book, but I have to enjoy the ride to get there, and I did not. So I generally found this book so boring. I think it could have been really good if it was shortened and parts of the story were taken out, because I don't think everything was necessary. I think that it had some good things to say regarding different kinds of privileges and the way people treat different people because of various things, mostly race, which I did see a review complaining about that, and I don't think that that was an issue for me in this book at all. I think it all felt very real. Everything that our main character was dealing with were things that happen in real life, sadly. Really, my issue was the pacing in this book, and I just think that it should have been edited more. And I'm pretty sure this one is smaller published, so that makes sense. So we have gone through all 20 books in the Goodreads top 20 mystery thrillers of 2024. I was thinking that this was a huge flop. I was thinking that everything was a disaster and I didn't have a good time because towards the end, everything didn't go well for me, but I put things into piles, and overall the list is better than I thought it was. I will say a lot of the ones that I enjoyed I did read before this video, so the list overall was a success. Maybe not the vlog part of it, but it's okay. I am still really happy that I read all of these, seeing what the most popular books are, my opinions towards other people's favorites, seeing how I line up with the general public. So starting worst to best categories, not like specifically within those categories, but I had 5 DNFs: All the Colors of the Dark, The Teacher, The God of the Woods, We Solve Murders, and the last one at the wedding. Then we had 3 that I would put in the did not like category: Not What She Seems, First Lie Wins, and Darling Girls. And then the biggest stack is ones that I generally enjoyed but were not absolute favorites: The Night We Lost Him, Middle of the Night, Home is Where the Bodies Are, The Mystery Guest, House of Glass, and How to Solve Your Own Murder. So those ones were my 3 to 3.5 stars. And then we have 5 that I gave 4, 4.5, or 5 stars. The Boyfriend, The Midnight Feast, The Return of Ellie Black, The Heiress, and Listen for the Lie. These 3 are my personal top favorites from this list of 20, with a 4.5 and 2 5 stars. I'd love to know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Obviously, I have very opposite opinions for a decent amount of these books, so I would love to know what you think. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, you can leave me a magnifying glass. I also have a video coming just like this where I read the horror nominees, so make sure you stick around for that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope to see you very soon. Bye.